Catus, Maximus here. This is just a quick review of an older used Blue Point 42-inch pry bar. This is advertised as a 1-inch, but they are fudging the numbers, unfortunately. What'd you expect from Snap-on? No, just kidding. When you measure a bar that is hex shape, it's always anything that's hex shape. It's across the flats unless there's a special situation where you're running across the peaks. And that's what Blue Point has done here, is they've gone ahead and decided to measure across the peak, or the peak, because if we look at the flats, it's a 7/8 bar. But if we start getting right over the peak of those the hex, then that's where we get close to 1 inch. So they are fudging the numbers. But it is stronger than a round 7/8 bar. Here's this Klein bar that I've talked about, or I reviewed before. This is the 32-inch or something, and this is indeed a 7/8 bar, but it's 7/8 round. So this would be basically this bar with extra reinforcing. So overall, this would be closer to a 15/16 bar. But still wanted to point that out. If you're going to call it 1 inch, then it should be 1 inch nominal, because obviously if this was a 1-inch round piece of steel, it wouldn't have the flats and there'd be even more material. And people have complained even on that Klein about them bending, and we can see, I don't know if you can see, but there is a bit of a bend on this one. There's actually a pretty big gouge right there. And so the bar is a little bent when somebody's jumping up and down trying to align something. And that's what these are for. You know, these may be used commonly in construction and ironworking, where they need to use, actually even the tip is a little bit bent. Well, they'll shove this through some holes and use the bar to line them up so they can put a bolt through them. And of course a prying end. Now there are, I believe, they still are totally selling this, the 2842, but it's up to the 2842C series. I believe this is a original series. Somebody can tell me what the dating is, because Snap-on and Blue Point always put these like weird date stamps, and this one's a little four-sided diamond shape. I kind of like the fork end on this just because it has quite a bit of rise and it has a nice curve. The steel seems to be pretty good. This has definitely done some work and has held up pretty well. You know, the tip does get beat up, because many times they're using this bar trying to slam it and slide it in or under something so you can actually get some prying action. The more modern ones, just like this Klein here, and I should show this, it's kind of awkward working with these long bars. More modern ones are like this Klein, where they have a little bit shallower, and it's a little bit more of an angled rise rather than the curve. So I do like this older Blue Point just because it is more traditional, and because, as you can see, you can get just quite a bit more lift out of it. So it's kind of nice to actually have both styles, because there may be some tighter situations where something like this may work a little bit better, and other situations where you need the additional rise. The tongue is a little bit narrow, surprisingly enough. Even on the Klein, they did forge it out so it's a little bit wider. And so that kind of caught me. This will fit in the tighter spaces, but I would have thought that when they were forging it out that they wouldn't have ground the sides off so much, so you could have just a little bit more surface area. Oh, I forgot to mention prices. So you can find these online for as cheap as like $50 or so new. Yes, they are still selling them as the 2842C on Snap-on's website. And Snap-on wants $120 for this pry bar straight off their website, which is a crazy amount of money for a pry bar. Especially one that's fudging the numbers by calling it a 1 inch when it's really a 15/16 or a 7/8 hex. That's literally what it is a 7/8 hex, but the overall average round equivalent diameter would probably be about 15/16. So if Snap-on's going to ask $120 full MSRP retail and call it a 1 inch bar, then it should be at least a 1 inch round bar. Because it certainly ain't no 1 inch hex, because you don't measure hexes across the peak. And of course, if anybody knows that, it would be, of course, Snap-on. So don't really like that Snap-on's kind of doing that. That does tarnish their reputation a little bit. Just be straight up and just forthcoming with your tools. Anyway, as I've shown, you know, this does have a little bit of a bend in there. You might be able to see it more this way, kind of start. So these aren't unlimited duty. You're not going to be able to put a big piece of pipe over the end of this, or have you and a couple friends jump up and down on it and not have it bend. But it certainly is a pretty nice pry bar. And they're more than just for, iron workers and people who do assembly work or work on heavy equipment and machinery, farm equipment. These can certainly be used in construction because, of course, many construction pry bars are designed for pulling big nails, and the forks are really wide because you're oftentimes using them with wood and softer materials, so you don't want it to crush in. But many times having an alignment peg like this that's nice and large helps you if you're working with heavier timbers and putting bolts through, then that can help with the alignment. And then obviously many situations where actually having a smaller tongue allows you to get into tighter situations. So anyway, this is the early version of this Blue Point pry bar. Definitely glad I picked this up. Actually, it was $10 at a pawn shop, no joke, and it was just in a an old rusty barrel with a bunch of old tools that they probably got from some kind of estate sale. And I guarantee you they went to sold it for $10 if they had noticed it said Blue Point on it. But these are the type of things that do show up at garage sales and all sorts of stuff. Don't always pass up all those old pry bars, because some of them actually are really nice. And you just want to take a closer look to see if you can find any branding on them. That's how I find a lot of my old tools, is people just don't take a very close look and just say, oh, it's some old piece of junk. Anyway, I really appreciate everybody who's been watching and subscribing. If you haven't subscribed, please do. Until next time, Catus Maximus out.